this is a demo on how to use Excel to graph a function as well as to determine where the slopes are equal to 0. In other words, where we would have local mins and maxes. So I have this function y is equal to x cubed minus 7x squared plus 36. This is from the example in your handout on cubic functions. I've also got the equation for its corresponding slope. I've also got a table started here. In it, I've got a column for x values, a column for the corresponding y values, and a column for the corresponding slopes. The idea here being that I'm going to calculate the y values that correspond to these x values based on this equation right here, x cubed minus 7x squared plus 36. Okay, let's do that. To start, I'm going to go into the first cell here for y. My equation begins with x cubed, so I'm going to go is equal to, and then I'm going to reference the x value. It's really important that I reference these values. So negative 8 is being clicked, and then to the power I use a hat sign, that's shift 6 on your keyboard, and then to the power of 3. So that's how you do to the power in Excel. Minus, then I have 7 times, and once again it's x, so I'm going to reference that negative 8, and this time it's to the power of 2, so I'm going to go shift 6, which gives me that hat, 2, plus the constant at the end of this equation, 36. And because I set this up as a table, it auto-filled. Sometimes you'll have to drag that equation down instead, depending on how you set up your table. So now I have my x and my y values from which I can create a chart. So I'm going to highlight these two columns, and I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to do a chart. So I have a few options I can do with the scatter plot. I can do to get just the coordinates. I could have a line going through the coordinates, or I could have a line without the coordinates. I'm going to put in the line with the coordinates today, just because I feel like it. And there is your graph of y versus x. Now I may want to confirm that my x and y are done appropriately. This time it's obvious by the eye. I have the values between negative 8 and 8 for my x value. But what if it had inverted the two columns? But what if it had inverted my values and I would have had x on the vertical axis and y on the horizontal? So what I can do is I can right click in the graph, go to select data, and I can view what I have and see that indeed my x values are this B column and my y values are this C column. Now that I've plotted this curve, I can see that I've got a max and I've got a min, and I want to locate where those are. Now I could do it mathematically, or I could do it using Excel. So now I'm going to look for where the slope is equal to 0, because that corresponds to where my maxes and my mins are. So I'm going to use the slope equation that we have. So I'm going to start with the calculation. It's going to be equal to 3 times, I'm going to reference that x value to the power of 2, minus 14 times x. I'm going to enter it. I have mine auto-populate. And now I have the slope values. Now sometimes I can just see through the table where that 0 value is for that slope. So I can see right here that there was a 0 slope that corresponded to when x was 0 and y was 36. That's this coordinate right here where I have my local maximum. However, I cannot see from this table a value where I have my local minimum. I can see that somewhere between where x is 4 and 5, I have slopes that change from negative 8 to 5. So it shifted from negative to positive. It had to have been 0 in between. So now it's about using goal seek to help me find the exact x value that would give me a slope of 0. So I'm going to go into one of these two cells, it doesn't matter which one, and then I'm going to go to data, and in this ribbon I'm going to go to the what if analysis and to goal seek. I now have goal seek, just put it right there, and the idea here is I'm going to set this cell here, and I want it to be 0 because I'm interested in when that slope value, so this is in the slope column, is equal to 0. by changing now in that same row that x value. And I'm going to click OK. And what Excel does is it changes that x value to achieve my goal of a slope of 0. I'm going to hit OK. Now, some people might get confused by this slope value. It says 5.4454 e negative 0.5. What that means is when I see e, it means that it's raising it times 10 to the power of negative 5. It means that it's giving it a lot of decimals. If I were to write this out as a decimal, this is the equivalent value. So while it's not exactly 0, it's really darned close. And this is good enough for me. And indeed, when we did this calculation by hand, we had a value of 4 2/3, which is very, very close to this x value. I would have rounded that to 4.67 anyways. So now this is the coordinate 4.667, and the corresponding y value is negative 14.81 for this local min. And there you go. That's how you can use Excel to both plot a function as well as determine where those slope values are 0. In other words, where our local minimum and maximum values are.